Coming up on this week's show.
Has the music industry stepped up?
And the concept that British artists are playing in France to generate money to support French artists and French venues and French promoters, it seems a little weird. Somebody like Lola Young didn't appear overnight. It's insulting to the artist. Clicking like on something is not the same as buying a ticket for it. Keir Starmer's favourite band is a obscure Scottish post-punk indie band called Orange Juice. Every young person in the country should be able to walk to see a fantastic new band that they connect with and makes them feel like this place belongs to them. And got to me and just put his face really close to mine and went,
Welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here. Keep watching, keep listening for your chance to maybe take part in the show. Our guest today works at the sharp end of the UK music industry. He's on a mission to save the amazing venues, the grassroots music venues up and down the country that gave us such amazing artists as Ed Sheeran, Wolf Alice, even going back to the Sex Pistols and the Jam. Let me give you a few facts and figures. Up and down the UK, there are 800 grassroots music venues. In 2025, over half of them made no profit at all. And those that did make profit made a profit of about 2.5%. So they're scraping by. Government changes in employers' national insurance contributions and business rates has meant that there's been a contraction in the job market. So there were 6,000 job losses in 2025. That's a 19% contraction. So today, let's welcome our very special guest, the man at the forefront of saving the UK grassroots music venues, CEO and founder of the Music Venue Trust, Mr. Mark Davyd. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Some of those figures are pretty scary to me, and I just want to quote you, if I can, which was based on your 2025 annual report from last year. So you said, and this is, I think, word for word, correct me if it's not, this sector has done all it can to keep music live in our communities. It now needs permanent protection, structural reform, and leadership that recognises grassroots venues as essential national infrastructure. That obviously needs to come in the form of a coherent strategy from government, but they are not the sole solution. The music industry itself is in the last chance saloon with regards to the levy. If voluntary industry action does not deliver by June 2026, the government must legislate. Now, I want to ask you this because we're 3 months away from June 2026. Has the music industry stepped up?
I make my own. I break a rod for my own back. Really, don't know with statements like that. Yeah, look, there's a lot of progress on the adoption of the concept of the grassroots levy, which is where the success of our arena and stadium shows, which are exploding in value and in the number of them, and the value of tickets sold and the number of tickets sold, everything about it is really successful. We're really pleased about that. But to watch venues closing because they don't have £4,000, £5,000 to pay a noise assessment bill, or closing down for historic debts that are really should be very manageable within that, it's never going to be acceptable. We're currently running at about 30%. And what I said was that by the end of June, we really need to be running at kind of 50% adoption of that grassroots contribution on every ticket. It's only £1 on every ticket. And I think everybody who's bought an arena or stadium ticket in the last 2 or 3 years will know it's a very small amount of money compared to not just the price of the ticket itself, but everything else that's on there. So,
I mean, seriously, it's about 1% of a ticket price at the O2 or something now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly at the Wembley Stadium tickets, frankly, it's probably less than 1%.
Yeah.
That's the average ticket price now. So I think it's very reasonable. I think it's very sensible. Look, it's not a charitable donation. It's investment into the future of British music, into research and development. I just think that is a sensible thing to do, to be honest.
For sure. And when you talk about the music industry, is that addressed at the artists or the labels? Because I know, bands like Wolf Alice have said, yes, we will donate £1. But is it down to the labels that sign the artist to say this is part of their contract, or how does that work?
I mean, it's really the big players are the promoters. Look, they're going to need the consent from the artist, but it's really down to the promoters. So a lot of those names are kind of hidden from the public, but certainly people will know the name Live Nation, SJM, Kilimanjaro, AEG. These are the companies that are promoting at this level. those are the ones who need to at least instigate the conversation. And I'm full of praise for SJM, Kilimanjaro, AEG, done a lot of work on that. Live Nation could be doing more. They have done better this year than they've done at any point so far. And we just want to see that kind of grow and develop. But it's not impossible to do. Look, there's already a levy in France, and the concept that British artists are playing in France to generate money to support French artists and French venues and French promoters, it seems a little weird.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's the same companies promoting. So I think this is very doable. I would personally, and in terms of our organisation, we much prefer if the music industry does this itself.
yeah, yeah. I'm also interested, Mark, how you how did you start the charity? Why did you start the charity?
I like to liken it to one of those 1960s comedy films. Do you know the one where they're all lined up on the parade ground, about 100 soldiers all in one long line, and the sergeant major appears at the front and shouts, "Okay, I need a volunteer," and 99 people remember to step backwards, and one idiot doesn't. Well, this is that idiot. Essentially, there were a few of us. I mean, I've been involved in these venues my entire life, but I've been running. Well, I founded one in Tunbridge Wells in 1993.
Oh,
So
what, the Forum?
the Forum in Tunbridge Wells,
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
and myself and a couple of other people, we still own that building. It's now run by a community interest company, so it's part of the developing revolution. It's run by an independent, not-for-profit entity. Books all the bands down there now. There were a few of us like that, and we started noticing really in 2008 that there were less of us in the room, and that some of us that were leaving weren't being replaced by somebody else. So certainly places like the Princess Charlotte in Leicester, the Duchess of York in Leeds, even right up to places like the Astoria. I took that very personally when they closed the Astoria, and it really did make me think, well, wait a minute, if they can close the Astoria in the centre of London and nothing gets done about it, then maybe we're going to have to stand up for this ourselves. And
Yeah.
that's what we decided to do, have a charity that would represent the interests of live music, especially at the grassroots. But certainly our work is now, it's moved to kind of encompass everything about the grassroots and even above that, grassroots venues, promoters, artists, good relationship with festivals. So yeah, kind of. I had a bit of a background in working in music charities, but the important thing was the whole organisation is completely authentic. We've all stuck our hand down the loo at 3 o'clock in the morning to try and get it open. And I think people relate to that. They know that we haven't turned up on this like some government-appointed body to go, oh, look at us. No, it's run by people who spend their time in venues.
And also they're passionate about the music scene in this country, right? I mean, that's the kind of ground level of it, I think, is in the same time. I was the same as you about when you say about the Astoria. I was the same when the Marquee closed down, which is around the corner. Do you remember that? I was like, the Marquee's like this world famous venue. How can it possibly close down?
Exactly. There was a long period, I mean, too long a period, frankly, in which things were closing down. And we all kept looking at each other saying, well somebody's going to do something about this, aren't they? I mean, in that period, probably a third of all the venues in the country closed down. I mean,
really?
if that had happened at theatres, it would have been front page of the Daily Mail, and
Totally.
it feels kind of weird that we had to do this ourselves. I mean, I'm very proud and frankly, I'm very lucky to have done it. It's something I'm very passionate about, so it's great. But it does feel weird that government wasn't more interested in this before we came along.
It's a little bit. I won't get into government and politics, but it smacks of that short-sightedness that our politics kind of suffers from a little bit, doesn't it? They can see these bands filling the O2 and Wembley, but they don't appreciate the work, the 10 years of work it took them to get there through these small venues and stuff. And it's again short-sighted.
Yeah, I've got a personal animosity towards that phrase, overnight success. And when you get into it, listen, I like very particular types of music, and things that get me very wound up and everything are very specific. But look, the reality is, somebody like Lola Young didn't appear overnight. It's insulting to the artist, frankly, to say. I mean, that artist spent years honing a craft, learning performance skills, learning songwriting. It's kind of embarrassing. When the one I heard it about was somebody said that Chapel Roan was an overnight success. He's played like about 700 shows.
Do you, do you know, I remember Ray getting the breakthrough artist last year.
Wow, I mean, that just makes you rear back, doesn't it? Really? Are you sure?
You wonder if
I
the
mean,
music industry knows what's going on outside of their own little bubble? You know, it's
yeah, I
crazy.
think so. And also, look, a lot of the time, I'm not part of that brigade that doesn't like artists become successful. I think that's a bit short sighted. I like it when the artists I like start headlining arenas.
For
I don't
sure,
mind
yeah.
that. Very, very proud to have, promoted an early Wolf Alice show or whatever, and very, very proud when they played the O2 Arena and did such a fantastic job of it. Why are they so good at headlining arenas? Because they've played in front of six people,
Yeah.
one of whom's brought their dog. You learn things by failure, frankly. You
Of
learn things
course.
through failure, and you learn things by it being difficult to communicate with people. You learn how to communicate with people because you're not doing it well. So
Yeah.
these skills, I'm not saying anybody can't break through from like a social media viral, but when they get there, their money's going to be made in live. That's still the reality, even up to Taylor Swift. People
Yeah.
make their money in live. That's where
Yeah.
the money is
Yeah.
and has
Yeah.
been. Aside from a blip of about 40 years when recording was the lead thing, we threw the king threw money at musicians stood in the corner of the corner for about 10,000 years. And then for about 40 years, we sold records and vinyl and whatever,
And
and then a
people made
few
lots of money.
CDs.
Yeah.
And now we're back really in the thing of if you want to earn your money, you got to stand in a room. And if you want to stand in a room, people are going to work out really quickly whether you've done that or not before.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
becomes really obvious really quick.
Yes, it's very true. I think you can see in an experienced artist
Yeah,
who's come through like maybe social media, and
yeah.
then it's not the same at all. It's a very different experience
And
for the audience.
I feel very sympathetic to those
Mm,
artists, by the way. You can
mm,
see the potential. Just like clicking like on something is not the same as buying a ticket for it. Doesn't
no.
mean you buy the t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I think I'm very optimistic about 2026 and beyond because I think we're seeing a turn now in audiences where they're starting to think, I want to go and see the show. I don't want to just click my phone repeatedly. There's an adrenaline buzz in that, but it's pretty short lived.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. I also think that I read somewhere that this is everyone's getting back to live music because of after the pandemic when we're all sort of stuck indoors. You realise what an amazing experience going out into an audience and seeing a live band is. It's one of the great things that we produce in this country, I think, which is why what you do is so important.
I don't know how to do anything else. I mean, if this is whatever they call this that passes for some sort of career, it's entirely built around standing in rooms with people I don't know yet,
Yeah.
celebrating at the moment when the artist you've just discovered plays the song that's going to be your favorite for the rest of your life.
Oh,
And
yeah, I love that.
brings you together. There's nothing really like it. And in my personal thing is my buzz point is when it's like 200, 300, 400 people.
Yes, me too.
That's it's a it's a visceral,
Yeah.
huge emotion moment
Uh,
where you all look at each other and go, "Okay, this one." You
yes,
know,
this
it's
is
not
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
quite right. How did you find picking your top 5 tracks?
Unbelievably difficult. I started with about 500, and then do you know what? In the end, I decided to pick the five that would almost certainly reduce me to tears.
That's
So that
such a great
yeah,
option.
yeah, all for different reasons, but just the ones that at certain points I can remember myself listening to this track and just being very emotionally connected to it.
Yes.
When you hear these tracks, people probably say, "How would you be emotionally connected to that?" But there's a thing that happens, or
We're going to find out, Mark.
there's a moment.
Okay. Should
I'll,
we,
I'll put my tissues. I'll put my tissues on standby.
so your first track and was by Frank Turner.
Yeah,
So he's British, a punk folk singer songwriter.
yeah.
He's released 10 albums, solo albums, 4 rarities, a kind of other EPs, etc. His 2022 album, FTHC,
hmm
reached #1 in the UK album charts. I
Yeah,
didn't even know they had UK album charts anymore.
yeah. They do, and they're full of artists that I love breaking into the top 10 at the moment. So that's quite pleasing.
That's amazing. So the song you've chosen is I Still Believe. It's taken from his 2010 EP Rock and Roll and included on his 2011 album England Keep My Bones. Let me play a clip.
Now who'd have thought that after all, something as simple as rock and roll would save us all?
I'd love to believe that rock and roll will save us all. I'm not convinced so far.
Oh, you should listen to Frank Turner more then.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Tell us about this track, Mark.
This is like, it's like the anthem of what we do. He sings it all the way through. He just sings about the power of being in a small room. And he relates that to the kind of iconic figures that have come out of that, whether it's Jerry Lee Lewis or, you know, it's not complicated music, is it? You know, that's the thing about it. It's absolute root. It's not what it does to you and what it does to a group of people. It's not complicated. It's so heavily emotional and so inspiring that you can just listen to one track and then run down the street with your arms in the air like a balloon. This track I've probably played more times than any other track when something has pissed me off or makes me feel like giving up on something or makes me feel like, why are we doing this? It's just too difficult. And every so often you need that rallying noise, that soundtrack that reminds you, wait a minute, actually, power of rock music and the power of music in general is enough to actually get things done. I like to start meetings with politicians. First time I meet them, I like to ask them to tell me what's their favourite record.
Oh, that's a great one.
That's a very disarming question.
Yes.
But you can learn a lot when somebody tells you, oh, I heard this track. And then if you get into deep with them, or I heard, this band really means a lot. Keir Starmer's favourite band is a obscure Scottish post-punk indie band called Orange Juice.
I know Orange Juice.
Yeah.
Well, from kind of Rip It Up and...
Yeah.
Oh, really? I would
favourite.
not have guessed that about Keir Starmer.
Yeah, he's of the right age bracket. If you can get him on his own and ask him like the favourite album, he'll tell you it's "You Can't Hide Your Love Forever" by Orange Juice.
Wow.
I'd rather talk to Keir Starmer about that than pretty much everything in the policy raft. Do you know what I mean? But I'd apply that. That's not even a political thing. There was a guy called Ed Vaizey who was the Minister for Culture for the Conservative Party, and he had great music taste.
I'm never going to get into a room with Keir Starmer to ask him that, but I wish I could. Because it's the ultimate icebreaker a little bit, isn't it? Because you're obviously there to talk about whatever you need to talk about, but actually let's break it down because we're all human beings. We all have an emotional effect with, or give that comes from music, which is part the reason of this podcast really is talking about the emotional effects that music has on people.
Yeah.
So I think it's a genius thing to do is to sort of.
I mean Frank's a friend as well. I call him Sir Frank Turner for everything he's done for music venues in this country and everything he's done for music in this country. He's raised hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
He supports every correct cause there is going. His live shows are just. I mean, they're just phenomenal. I was at his 3,000th show at the Alexandra Palace.
Wow.
Sold out, and he played that track, and I cried all the way through it.
Wow. I love that. Oh, I love that. And also, I love that video because you're right. It gives a sense of this. We're all in a little room together, and we're just making music and like really getting into it. And it's a great video.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption. If you have a top track with a great story, then you could be featured on the show. Just fill out the form in our bio and we may be in touch. Also, if you're enjoying the show so far, like and subscribe. Now let's get back to it.
Your next track, which is from the band Sparks. And this is about taking you back to a specific place or time in your life. Now, Sparks, I find amazing because I was a kid and I remember watching them on Top of the Pops and being slightly scared by the brother on the keyboards, right? I don't know if it's Russell or Ron, but one of them.
That's Ron.
Ron, okay. So they've been around. They formed in 1968.
Yes.
And they released their most recent album was released last year or the year before, I think. Like Prolific.
Yeah, last year I think. Mad.
Yeah.
By Sparks.
Mad. That's it. Yeah. And they've released 27 studio albums, which is amazing. So your track that you've chosen is, which is a great title. What are all these bands so angry about? From the Little Beethoven album of 2002. Let's just play a little clip, and I'm fascinated to see what you say about this. So apparently, Mark, this song was having a poke at Linkin Park and new metal.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I genuinely didn't know that. I think it's a very funny title, which is classic Sparks. Anyway,
yeah,
I've been listening to the band pretty much my whole life. Kimono My House was my entry point. I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. Pretty much like you. They came on Top of the Pops. Ron was basically had, let's not beat around the bush, he was dressed as Hitler.
Oh, thank God you said that, because I didn't want to mention it in case it was really non-PC or something.
But in a
Thank
sort
God
of,
you said that.
in a sort of staring down the camera and threatening way. He had a tiny
Yeah,
pencil moustache, and so I've always loved the band. This category takes you back to a specific time and place. In my previous career, my previous job, I ran another music charity, which was working with music with young people, and then music in health situations, and music in criminal situations, and everything else. And we used to run it out of my house. And I was living in East London, and we just recently, my wife and I, we'd had twin girls, and the door to my office had like one of those child barriers on it. Otherwise, they would just come in and wreak havoc. And so this album came out kind of in that period of time, and I drove everybody in the house and everybody who worked with me absolutely mad by playing it over and over and over. If anybody hasn't heard Little Beethoven by Sparks, I cannot recommend it strongly. It is a phenomenal album, and came at a point in their career where they were sort of almost in a bit of a lull, although later on when you look at Sparks, actually they're always doing something interesting. But whenever I listen to that album, I could have chosen any track from that, but I just particularly like that sentiment. What are all these bands so angry about? I thought it was quite funny juxtapositioning that against Frank Turner. He's really angry about
yes,
something.
yeah.
But I can literally just picture my children as tiny kids, either trying to get over that barrier and get in the office, or on different days, we had those door bouncers.
Yes.
So and then you hook them above the door, and then
Yeah.
that would be playing, and they would just be bouncing behind me.
Do they enjoy Sparks still?
Yeah, they do, and that, you know what? I'm very, very lucky. They've grown up in a very musical household, but in a musically eclectic household. You know, so they will often bring me something that I haven't heard that they think, well, you know, he's going to like this because
Yes.
everybody else. And maybe 50% of the time I think it's awful, and 50% of the time I think it's genius.
Yeah.
Actually, that happened this week. It's a good job you asked me this last week, because this week it would have been 5 songs by Grandson, who I went to see on Monday, and it was literally one of the best shows I've seen for years. It was just unbelievably good.
Wow.
Fantastic. But
What venue was that?
it was at the Kentish Town Forum, actually, slightly
yeah.
larger for me.
Yeah.
But the band were just unbelievably. He was brilliant. Everything was perfect. I mean, it was just so good. You know, the bottom bit of the O2 Forum is it's about probably holds about 1,000 people. It was
Okay.
it was a mosh pit, all
Wow.
1,000 people, left to right,
Wow.
front to back. Absolutely.
Is it a sort of a mixed age group?
Yeah.
Do you find? Yeah.
Yeah. But Sparks, always been one of my favourite bands. The latest album, Mad, is really fantastic. Their work with Gorillaz they're doing now is brilliant. Been lucky enough to meet them a couple of times. Lovely people as well.
Oh, wow.
It's very down to earth, and 27 albums. And the last album is probably the most difficult to listen to. How about that for a career?
Wow. And
Yeah.
those are artists who aren't afraid to kind of shun commercial success and just go, actually, we're artists. We're going to create what we want to create.
This is the music we've just made now. You can get into it or not get into it. You know?
Yeah, which is great. So your next one is by a Spanish band called the Pinkertones. And they've released 6 studio albums. The first release was in 2003. This is a track called Sonido Total. I hope I'm saying that right.
Total.
Total, sorry, Sonido Total by the Pinkertones. Let's have a clip.
Sonido en el espacio, silencio en mi cabeza, rugido intergaláctico.
I've not heard that before, but I absolutely love it. and the video is so interesting and so well put together. It's brilliant. I love it. Right, this
So
one.
I've done most things you can think of in the music industry at some point, whether it was putting a band on in a stadium or I've literally done pretty much everything there is. I spent roughly 10 or 12 years managing mainly Spanish and some South American artists.
Wow, how did you start that?
Through a series of weird. I mean, how do you start anything in the music industry? Do you know? It's one of the things actually people will say to you, "Oh, how do you get into the industry?" And my view is you just turn up. and
Turn up and do something.
Yeah, like generally somebody will say, "Well, this needs doing," and I got that little gene where I'll go, "Well, I'll do it then." So I ended up managing those bands, and the Pinkertones was one of those bands.
Okay.
But this category reminds you of somebody, a person or whatever.
Yes.
This is not I know the band very well. They're good friends of mine, and everybody around the band. So the American record label, there's some fantastic people. My friend Thomas has been a friend for many years. But one particular person, whenever I see this, or wherever I see this, the people should check out their videos. All the videos are fantastic.
Are they?
Yeah, and I'm not just saying that because I manage them. They are. I mean, they genuinely had brilliant videos, really unusual sounds for British ears. And that's why I fell in love with it, because it was just so different, and their sense of what was cool and what would work was very different. But there was a guy we used to call him Big Paul, Paul Brandreth, and I used him to tour manage the band, and myself and Paul went around the world with the band for something like 8 years, 10 years.
Wow.
And Paul was one of those guys you could totally rely on. He was the best, probably one of the best tour managers I ever met, because he had a way of saying no that was incredibly polite, but would end any discussion of it any further, which is an absolutely vital job for a tour manager.
Yeah.
And we sadly lost Paul a few years ago.
Oh,
and
sorry.
I have you can't see, but above my desk I have it was the Million Color Revolution world tour, 2005 to 2007, 3 years on the road, and the poster is just of all the places they were. And so they were in China and Russia and North America and Canada and South America. There's me hugging a zebra in one of the photos, and it's just a really wild story that most people don't know about. And in the middle of that photo, there's a picture of Paul that really looks like him, and he's grinning, but he's got that. You don't have to swear on this.
Of course you are. Of course you can.
He's grinning, but he's got that "don't fuck with me" look in his eyes.
Like every tour manager should have.
Every tour manager demeanor is, come in, we're all going to do this in a friendly way. In his eyes is, don't fuck with me though, because otherwise this ain't going to happen. I miss him a lot, but a lot of happy memories though.
Yeah, that's sad, but I guess you can only leave happy memories, right?
And the music is there,
Yeah.
We built something together with that band that meant a lot to both of us, and actually was still something I'm very, very proud of having done. There's not many English people have managed about a dozen Spanish bands to success in North America.
No, I think that's a talent, Mark. That is.
Yeah. Well, either a talent or just turn up a lot. One of those two.
That's a lovely story. Thank you. So your next track was a soundtrack to something significant. This is Your Daddy's Car by the Divine Comedy. Divine Comedy, a band formed in 1989 in Northern Ireland by Neil Hannon. Now, my understanding is that Divine Comedy is actually just Neil Hannon, and he has a load of roving musicians that come in and help him out.
Maybe.
He's 13 studio albums. He also wrote and performed the theme tune to Father Ted, which I didn't know. The track you picked is Your Daddy's Car. Let me just line the clip up.
We took your daddy's car and wrapped it round a tree. We didn't know.
I just had to cut that bit because I love that lyric about took your daddy's car and wrapped it around a tree, because I think at some point I did take out my dad's car as well and might have had an accident in it, but it resonates. Why this track, Mark?
Well, I've met a lot of musicians, and very few of them are actually musical geniuses. But Neil is an actual musical genius.
Wow, how do you define that?
If nobody listened to it, it would still have to come out of him. If you gave him 2 sticks, he'd write an album out of them. If you took away all the instruments and wouldn't let him have a pen, somehow music would still burst out of him. And the music that he writes is, I play myself. The music that he writes is complex and it sounds easy. And then as soon as you start kind of get into it, I mean, that song in particular is wildly technical.
Is it?
It has a series of not even key changes, but just suspended chords that move and shift. And there's just a bunch of stuff going on there that doesn't sound like it's got all that. But that's because to Neil that would come naturally, whereas to those of us who are not Neil, that would be our life's work.
It's funny, that track, because I found that track. I think lyrically is always really interesting, and I haven't listened to a lot of Divine Comedy, but it's funny you saying how technical it is, because it seemed to me that there was a lot to listen to all at once.
Yeah.
There's kind of a lot of layers going on that I had to go over it a few times just to kind of figure out how it all came together almost, because it didn't sound like it should.
And all 13 albums are like that.
Okay.
He's got a weird reputation for the kind of hits. So, you know, the big hit was Something in the Woodshed or something like that. I mean, I don't remember. But on the albums, there's all this stuff that is very difficult and technical. I should add, though, but as I told you at the beginning, I chose most of these tracks for their ability to reduce me to tears. The lyrics on this particular track, I can't put it down to one specific moment in my life, but there's lots of things that happened, you know, that were like there are lyrical echoes of that. More importantly than that, Divine Comedy is the first band I ever took my future wife to go and see together, and we saw them supporting Gene at the Astoria.
Wow.
So that was our first date.
Wow, that's
it was
romantic.
30 years ago the other week, actually.
Oh, sweet. And have you been to see them since, or is he still touring?
I'm seeing them tonight.
No way.
Yes.
Well, they're playing on your 30th year of anniversary. That's amazing.
Yeah, we'll probably go and find him and let him know that, and see what he makes of it. But so it's been a whole way through our relationship. There's always been moments of sometimes quite stupid things that are happening, other times just very romantic stuff that's happening. It's nice to have an artist that you both love that is still producing music that is, I mean, his latest album was absolutely, Rainy Sunday Afternoon is absolutely, I urge anybody who hasn't heard stuff from him before, go and listen to that new album, the Rainy Sunday Afternoon album. It's phenomenal. There are 5 tracks on there that were probably 5 out of the 20 best songs released last year.
Wow.
He's just got everything as far as I'm concerned.
Is he one of these artists who goes, oh, I'm just going to write a big banger so that I can sell it and get some money? He'd write like National Express, and then he can sort of go off and do his less commercial stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's it. But I think he wrote the soundtrack to Wonka, the film. He wrote the soundtrack. He wrote the songs in it. I mean, you know, like he is incredibly musically gifted, and he'd hate me saying that and doesn't believe it himself. But he is. He's just got massive amounts of natural musical talent, and then he works hard as well, you know. Yeah. And there's so much to go. If people haven't heard Divine Comedy a lot before, there's so much there to go and explore. And no, it's not for everybody, but I think most people would listen to it and say, wow, okay, actually I didn't know this artist had done this incredibly wide range of music. As you said, very easy to listen to on the surface and go, oh, it's like fluffy pop. And then you go back the second time and go, hang on a sec, what is that floating bass suspended note, and what's it doing there?
Yeah. And how's he done that? Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
has he done? Well,
Yeah.
tell me, like, why has he done that?
That's a much better question.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. And now your final track is from a band called The Sound, who were from 1979, a post-punk band from London. Now, 1979 was when I started getting into music, and I was massively into the Jam and Echo and the Bunnymen. Never heard of The Sound, which when I looked into them after you listed that your track, that's a kind of a theme for their career, it seems. So there's critics saying, let me just read them out. So Jack Rabbit of the Big Takeover magazine stated, "The Sound, just one of the finest bands of the 1980s. Chris Roberts of Uncut magazine wrote, U2, Joy Division, Bunnymen, they pale in this band's shadow," which is a very sort of bold statement. So you picked a song called Winning from 1981 album From the Lion's Mouth. Let me play a clip.
Then I started winning.
I see, when I listen to that, and that clip doesn't show it, but there's a guitar in there, which it sounds like The Cure, and I'm going, oh wait a minute, is that where The Cure got some of their guitar sounds from? It's like, I wonder if they're just that kind of influential.
There was a bunch of bands. Well, you recall very similar experience. There was a bunch of bands came out, and basically they all had similar influences. A lot of them had heard Joy Division and heard that kind of angular noise. The Sound is the one that kind of slipped through the net. Didn't really get as high and as far as they should have done. From the Lion's Mouth is my personal favourite album, although a lot of other people would pick Jeopardy. And there's a third album, All Fall Down, which is the original lineup. But From the Lion's Mouth is probably one of the albums I've played the most. But this, you said, I think the question was the thing that inspired you, or the one that was like a turning point in your life.
Yeah.
Literally, this is my Marvel Studios origin story. When I was 15, I'd already seen a few bands, but mainly I'd been taken to see them by other people or whatever. I bought a ticket to see The Sound at the 100 Club on Oxford Street. And it was the first ticket I remember. I may have bought other ones, but it's the first ticket I remember buying myself. I think it was £3. And I had a very weird upbringing. I mean, there's no point. I wasn't very well as a child. I spent a lot of time in hospital. Then I kind of fell out of education. I don't know if I have any qualifications. I certainly was very odd. I walked into that club. My hair was as high as it would go with a bunch of Falcon hairspray. I was wearing a great army coat. I was wearing a pair of combat trousers, DMs, load of army netting, sort of grey sweatshirt thing. And I looked around. I leant on the pillar, which I still do fairly regularly. I lean on this specific pillar to remind myself, okay, this is where you came from.
Wow.
And I lean on that pillar. I leant on that pillar, and I looked around the room, and I went, oh, wait a minute, I'll do this. Like, I hadn't found anything before that. I was reading The Enemy and I was reading The Melody Maker, but it was all quite distant, you know? And I just leant on that pillar and I looked around, and everybody looked like me. You know, like literally it was a whole room full of people who looked like me for the first time ever. And I looked at the band on stage, and like everybody, I thought, oh, I'll be the bass player or whatever. But very quickly I started looking like, how are the lights? Who's doing those lights? And who's doing that sound? And who's put the poster up? And who put this anyway? And like, how much is it to get in? And who's that weird guy on the door with the tattoos? And like, oh, that guy who served me a point, how did he get a job here? You know, it was the first time I ever really thought, okay, I'm going to do this. The Sound was the band that did it. It could have been any one of the other bands you've named, but it didn't happen to be them.
Okay. Oh, and you obviously went deep into it at the venue when you were there. You were sort of questioning it, and then was that questioning in terms of which bit could I do?
No, I think that's a kind of. I know it's a slightly weird approach. I'm coming across as weird again. I aim to maintain my normal level. For some reason, the way my brain works is that led me to just go, okay, wait a minute. Like, who's putting this on? You know, like, and how does this happen? And I'm sure other people just look and think, oh, I'd be in the band. I wanted to be in the band. I'm not going to pretend I didn't want to be in the band. It looked glamorous.
Mark, we all want to be in the band.
We all want to be in the band. Okay. But I did have that definite thing of, wait a minute, I'll do that as well. And it wasn't very long after that I started promoting shows. It wasn't long after that I started working in a music shop, and I started working in a recording studio, and I didn't have any career or anything. I just turned up a lot until people gave in and let me do stuff, which is one way of getting a job, isn't it?
I feel like that's how the music industry works.
Yeah, I think it's good when it does work like that.
Yeah,
It is a person to person industry.
yeah.
But it could have been any band. You know, a few years before that, I had another moment where I was watching the 1970s rock and roll revival group Darts.
Oh yes,
Yeah, do you remember them?
I remember Darts.
Well, if you remember Darts, do you remember the guy who used to be on the bass vocal was a wild looking guy called Den Hegarty, and he had kind of bouffant hair and he had these massively wide eyes.
Oh, I thought he was a sax player.
No, that was Horatio Hornblower, who eventually became Horace Trowbridge, who was the CEO of the Musicians Union for years. But Den Hegarty, he was the crazy wild guy of the group, and his particular shtick is he would always run into the audience, and of course he was the bass vocalist, so go boom 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 like that.
Oh yes.
Yeah. The Croydon Fairfield Halls, my sister took me there. I must have been about 11 years. I was really pretty ill. And at that point, I couldn't stand. I couldn't stand up. And Den Hegarty ran through the crowd of all these people stood in their seats and got to me and just put his face really close to mine and went, like spit in your face. And I thought, well, this is good. I like music now. You know, like that was before before that, I think I didn't have anything to do with it. But immediately I thought, oh, I like music. This is great. You know, I think he thought, oh, there's one kid in the audience here isn't enjoying it. But of course, I didn't have time to explain. I have this degenerative disease and I'm not allowed to stand up. You know, so
He sort of thought, I'm going to come over and intimidate that 11-year-old.
yeah,
kid
that's
he's
I'll
not
get
enjoying
this kid out
himself.
of his seat. You know. But yeah,
It
so
feels like it was your destiny, Mark, just to be in the music industry, whatever happened.
I'm not a massive believer in that. I'm a believer in the fact that this really genuinely means a lot to me in a way that people who don't like what I'm saying find very annoying. They'd love it to be about something else other than what I'm saying it's about. For me, it's about music belongs in every community in the country. Every young person in the country should be able to walk, not spend an hour on a bus. Every young person in the country should be able to walk to see a fantastic new band that they connect with and makes them feel like makes them feel like this place belongs to them. Because that's what the Sound did for me. They made me feel, and I still feel, even though poor old Ruby Horton and Jeff Horton, who actually run the 100 Club, they're in charge of it, but I kind of think it's mine. in a way, not in an offensive way, but it belongs to all of us that have gone there in the last, whatever it is, like 80 or whatever years it is now that's been going. And that sense of ownership, everybody should feel like that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
You set me off on one now, Nige, but I'm going to make my big socio-political look.
Do it.
Not feeling like that. Not feeling that you own the place that you live in, or the place you live in represents you. That's what this loneliness that we're talking about in society is all about. That's what drives people to extremist opinions. That's what makes people feel, you know, things are being done to them. It's the closure of music venues is an expression of that.
Yes.
If you
totally.
close the music venue, I'll come around your house and burn it down. You know, I mean, it's like the 100 Club means immense amounts. After my own venue, you know, like all these venues mean a lot to me, but that's the one. The Sound, not even playing that track, any track they were playing, leaning on that pillar. That's why you and me are talking now.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah. Oh, I've got some great memories from the 100 Club. I recently was there seeing Coach Party do their second album launch. And I remember watching, was it the first time I went there? I can't remember. Sophie Ellis-Bextor in her first band, The Audience, doing
yeah.
their first
I booked
their first show there. I think it was amazing. It's really good, great. I mean, really great memories. And that's exactly right. That's why we're here talking, isn't it? Because they mean something. These bands and the music and the venues and stuff. So,
yeah.
Mark, let me clear my throat. I'm getting all choked up as you talk about it. Mark, listen, thank you very much. You've been an amazing guest. I really want to ask you, what if people really want to get behind what you do and get behind saving our venues? Because I'm really passionate about it as well. But there's a sense of how, I can go and see bands, but I don't necessarily playing in my local venues. What can we do?
Well, there's a variety of things. I mean, I do. You kind of said it there already. The most basic thing you can do is go and see a band you weren't going to go and see. The level of musicianship and talent and everything we got in this country is still phenomenal. We're heavy hitters around the world,
Yes.
And even the bands that are just starting, they're going to be all right. And you might see something you think, oh, that's going to improve or whatever. But go and see the band with the name that you're not expecting to see. Go and see the musical genre you're not expecting to like. Get out there.
That's a great idea.
That's a really good idea. If people want to be more direct than that and they'd love to support our work, we have a supporters circle. You can join that. You get an exclusive T-shirt, which you only get by member, and it's like you can be a member for like £5 a month, and that helps us to keep our team together that supports all the venues. So
cool, and they can do that through your website.
Yeah, they go to the website. There's just follow the thing to the supporters circle, which is normally down the right hand side of the page. So it's musicvenuetrust.com, and that enables us to make sure that the team. We do a lot of deals in the music industry. But for a lot of the hard work that's done around legal cases, finances, supporting venues, that supporter circle, the money we get from that supports that bit of work, because we can't risk that on, did we get a big donation from a rock band or whatever? Needs a hardcore thing. So people want to support that, that'd be fantastic. But I'm still going to say, main thing, go and see one more band. Improve your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also found out that so I live in Woking, and I found out that the Fiery Bird is one of your music venues that you support and stuff. So I'm going to get down there a lot more.
Yeah,
I think.
Please do, because again, Elaine and the team that run that. Listen, mate, go in there. The other thing people do: walk into your local venue. Well, pay to get into your local venue. That's a good idea. Pay to get into your local venue. While you're there, get chatting to the staff, and even if you only chat to them and say, "Well, I really appreciate what you're doing" or whatever. It's really important that people feel recognised for what they're doing, because a huge amount of what's being done now is being done by volunteers. It's being done as a passion project.
Yeah.
And actually these people need our support. They are keeping music live in our communities. And I'm hopeful things are going to get better this year. But it's been a tough few years. It's been a tough few years.
I think you can see that with the amount of closures and the labour market contracting and stuff. But Mark, I'd love to have you back on the show in like a year's time, just to see if it's got better this year, maybe.
Yeah, provided I can pick 5 completely different tracks and relate you 5 other teary stories about what they do, then we're on. Yeah.
Brilliant. Mark, thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute fascinating pleasure, and hope to see you again soon.
See you soon.
Big thanks to Mark Davyd from the Music Venue Trust.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. And if you want to be on the show, fill out the form in our bio. See you next time.